for, does that mean it just started?
Yes.
Okay, we start again. So the question is about what is bodhicitta and bodhisattva. So bodhicitta is a mind that is based on love, the wish for everybody to be happy and to have the causes for happiness, and compassion, the wish for others to be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. And they are based on having the confidence that people can be happy, that it is possible to get rid of suffering, and being confident of what method will bring that about, and also being engaged in the activities that will help to bring that about. All of that is included in love and compassion. It's not just, oh, how wonderful it would be if people were happy and free of suffering. So it's a much more active state. So built on that, and then taking responsibility, feeling that the only way that I can really help everybody, because it is based on equanimity, that seeing everybody as equal, so I want to be able to, may everybody be happy, whether they're friends, enemies, or strangers. May everybody be free of suffering, because everybody wants to be happy. Nobody wants to be happy. To be unhappy, there's no difference. So the only way that I will be able to, and I take responsibility to be able to do that, and the only way that, so that's called universal responsibility, and the only way I'll be able to do that is if I become a Buddha, which means that I overcome all my shortcomings and realize all my potentials. So that's the foundation. And it underlies bodhicitta in a, what should we say? Almost an unconscious type of support. Now, the bodhicitta mind itself is aimed at the goal, enlightenment, not the Buddha's enlightenment, not enlightenment in general, but my own enlightenment that I have not yet attained, so it's not yet happening, but which can happen on the basis of what's known as the Buddha nature, so the potentials that I have for that, the hardware basically that I have that will enable that, the purity of the mind and so on. So if you look at the mental continuum of an individual, it's my individual enlightenment. If you look at that continuum from moment to moment, well, it has, changed even, if we don't think so easily in terms of beginningless lifetimes and so on, but it changes from moment to moment. Our form changes from when we were an infant to when we were an adult to when we're an old person and so on. If you look further along the line, extending it all the way to enlightenment, so what we are aimed at is that end point there, that just as I can say that's me, as a baby, as a young adult, as an old person, so me can be, is tied to that continuum. So that me will continue to be tied moment to moment to that continuum all the way to the point of enlightenment. So what we imagine, what we're aiming at is that end point then, that will be me. And at that end point, there are, when you speak about an enlightened being has what's called Dharmakaya, which is a kaya is a body like a body of literature. It's a collection of many, many different things, a network of many things. So you have the mind of a Buddha, which is omniscient, which is all-loving. It's not all-powerful. It's not a creator, but it is free of obstacles, so it can reflect and be aware of everything. That's the omniscient mind. And the voidness and true stoppings on that. That's known as the essential nature body, which is referring to the stopping of all the shortcomings and obscurations. So the true stopping of that, and it was never stained by impossible ways of existing. So voidness is the opposite of that. So this is this total purity. Okay. Now, that mind, that thing is for the, that nature body fulfills one's own purposes because you're rid of all the stuff, the obstacles that are creating your problems. You're creating problems. So that's for your own benefit. Now, that mind can only, needs to appear, because you have, there's also a body associated with that, a physical body. So there are various types of bodies. There are subtle bodies that can help, in very subtle realms, and gross bodies. That's called Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya, just technical terms. And those types of physical body, and it can appear in many, many different forms, so it's a network of many bodies. And that omniscient mind that knows how to help everybody and has love for everybody, all of that is for the benefit of others, to fulfill their purposes. So there are two types of bodhicitta. If you are aimed at those form bodies and the omniscient mind to benefit others, that's called relative bodhicitta or conventional bodhicitta. And if you are aimed at achieving that essential nature body, the voidnesses of the mind, the purity of the mind, that's called ultimate or deepest bodhicitta. So there are these two aspects of it. Now, when you develop that bodhicitta, when you develop that, that aiming for that, and you don't have to build it up by lines of reasoning. Everybody is equal, everybody wants to be happy, nobody wants to be unhappy, and blah, blah, blah. And you go through a line of reasoning, there's several lines of reasoning to reach it, to get that state of mind being active that is beginning level. And when you have it completely without having to build it up. So that is uncontrived or it's, I forget the word that I use, I think uncontrived or something like that. So then it is just there all the time. Then you have really bodhicitta, and a person who has that is a bodhisattva. So that is not a very short answer to your question.
Wow, Dr. Berzin, thank you so much. I do want to just take a moment and just welcome everybody. Wow, right off the bat, we go real deep, and so grateful for you making the time to answer any questions that we might have. And if anybody does have one, I'm very happy to hand the mic out. And also, everybody on the chat, if you would like to ask a question, please feel free, and we will get to your question as soon as we have an opportunity. I do have one question in the chat already,
Yes,
if I may.
please.
All right. So, this question is, what is the relationship between awareness and consciousness? And are sentient beings born with awareness and consciousness comes out of that?
Well, first of all, awareness and consciousness are English words. And so you can't really define them in a way in which the English words are defined. So that's where initially a lot of confusion may arise. So you have to go back to how they are used by translators. And of course, none of the translators that I know, myself included, likes other translators' terminology or uses it. Occasionally, you're stuck with something because you can't be inventive enough to come up with something else. So I can only explain uh, how I have used it in the past and how I've changed my mind more recently. There is no word of awareness as, well, let's start it again. Consciousness is you have, when you talk about mind, this is not going to be a short answer. I never give short answers. So hold on. When we talk about mind in Buddhism, we're not talking about a thing. We're not talking about a the physical basis of what we're talking about. We're talking about mental activity. It's a dynamic process, mental activity, moment to moment. Its content is changing moment to moment, and that mental activity can be described from a physical objective point of view. That's the Western way of describing the mental activity. And it can also be described from a subjective, experiential point of view, which is the way the Buddhists are describing it. So these two are not in conflict. They are just describing the same phenomenon from two different points of view. So in terms of that, well, I won't go into a definition of the mind. That will get us off track. But it is mental activity which always has to have content. It's experiencing something, and so experiencing content. And that content, we can speak in terms of being aware of the uh, essential nature of something. So in Buddhism, and this is what consciousness, the word consciousness is used for. The consciousness, think of it as like a computer that there is different information. There's visual information, there's audio information. From a Buddhist point of view, there's also, all the sensory. There's taste information, there's tactile information, there's smell information, and each of these are, that's the essential nature of what the information is. So consciousness, there are visual consciousness, auditory consciousness, smell consciousness, and so on, and mental consciousness. which is can be conceptual or can be non-conceptual. So consciousness is just aware of what type of information it is. Is it sight? Is it sound? Is it so on? That's all it is. The essential nature. Essential nature is what it is. It's not specifically, is it a table or a chair, but it is what type of information it is. Then you have mental factors, which are either mechanical, things like attention and concentration or intention, these type of things. And other mental factors are emotions, either positive emotion or negative emotion, and they are accompanying that moment of mental activity in which we are cognizing, is the neutral term that's used for, you know, that mental activity, you know, this experiencing that object. Okay, so that's consciousness. Now, awareness, I've used that for, there is, for instance, among these mental factors, we have discriminating, I used it for discriminating awareness. That's sometimes translated as wisdom, which is so vague a word, it's meaningless. And especially when you know that the worm has it as well, then wisdom doesn't make any sense. But it is, I used it or just to, as a way to express this. So discriminating knowing, what it is it puts together choices and discriminates between which it wants and which it doesn't want, which, you know, to choose. And then there's another mental factor that's going to be decisive, you know, that's choosing. So it sort of discriminates, you know, this is, you know, eat this or eat that, go right or go left, in the most basic worm level of this. And it could be also on a more sophisticated level in terms of what is reality, what's not reality, these type of things. So I call that discriminating awareness. I've recently discarded the word awareness and used knowing. I think that uh, it fits better with the uh, explanation of ignorance that I've been working on, which is also a totally vague word that doesn't have much meaning for or misinterpreted in the Buddhist circles. So, but awareness I was using for this discriminating awareness. There's also another term called deep awareness, which is sometimes called the Buddha wisdoms, which is again pathetic because the worm has it as well. These are ways in which that mental activity works. So there's 5 types: mirror-like, that able to take in information; equalizing, that's able to put things together into categories, you know, that these are all human beings, you know, and those are chairs. So, you know, they are not unrelated. You know, they fit together into have a common defining characteristic. So the worm can put that together. Otherwise, how does it know that these two things are food, for example? And individualizing, so it can individualize. You know, it's not. You know, they are. You know, yes, these are all human beings in front of me, but this one is an individual and that one's a different individual. So it's like that. And then there is the accomplishing one. So we know what to do with things. You know, to eat, you have to put it in this hole in your head, not that hole in your head. I mean, we know how to do things. Worm knows how to eat, and so on. And that there is sphere of reality, which is basically to know what things are. So on basic level. So I mean, was using deep awareness for that, deep in the sense that it is, there's another meaning of that, which means in terms of seeing reality, but it's also deep in that it is very primitive as well. So I was using awareness, you know, there as well, but it's not as though, so I would call that knowing again. It's not as though, you know, the confusion is that awareness means something in English, that, you know, I'm aware of this. So what does that mean? I mean, we have to differentiate these things from mindfulness. Mindfulness is the mental glue, is the way to understand that, not the Western usage of the word mindfulness, which is not the Buddhist meaning of it. Mindfulness is the mental glue. It's the same word as to remember. It is that has the prevents you from forgetting when you are actively, you know, thinking something. So that's the mindfulness, keeps the mind from losing its grip. So there's mindfulness, there's a alertness, which is basically the alarm system. It's a function of mindfulness that ding, 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 you know, that hold, that hold, by the way, is called concentration. That's the hold of it. The mindfulness is to not let go, and the alertness is to notice when it's too loose or too tight. And then there's attention, which is to pay attention again, to do that. So awareness is not quite any of those things either. So I don't know that awareness really fits into the Buddhist model of these mental factors. So I have tried to eliminate that because I was using that for unawareness, for ignorance, and I've rejected that. That's not really accurate. When we speak about ignorance, there's two meanings of it historically. Before one author called Dharmakirti, so what you find in the so-called Abhidharma texts of Vasubandhu and Asanga, which are the texts on basically fields of knowledge, sort of like an encyclopedia of various pieces of information, let's say it that way. That earlier version, it is anti-knowing. Anti-knowing is the mental factor that stupefies the mind, making a mental block, preventing you from understanding the Four Noble Truths. It's very helpful to know that this is the mental block that prevents you from understanding it. Not talking about a mental block preventing you from understanding trigonometry. We're talking about specifically the Four Noble Truths, reality, these sort of things. So that mental block can only be overcome by building up a tremendous amount of positive force, so-called merit, which is a terrible translation. But it's a positive force, positive potential, that in helping others, you open up your mind, especially if you do Mahayana sense, which is all beings. So, when you imagine all beings, you are opening up your mind, the scope of the mind, enormously to all beings. And that opens up the mind to overcome this mental obstacle, this closed-minded, stubborn, I can't understand, this type of thing. So that's the initial usage of the word ignorance. So it's anti-knowing, preventing you from knowing. And then according to Dharmakirti, I think he was in the 6th century, he said that actually that's a more general term, and usually it's used for a specific form, which is this, what was mentioned, this deluded view toward a perishing network. So what is that? That's referring to thinking in terms of a soul, personal soul, that comes into the body, that it can exist independently of a body and mind. It is something which is static. It's not affected by anything. And in terms of the one Hindu philosophy, Samkhya philosophy, it's not made of these three qualities, Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas, to the basis like of Ayurvedic medicine and Ayurvedic cooking and stuff like that. It's not made of these three parts. Matter is made of three parts. It's not that. So partless means that. So this is an Atman, a soul, as taught by one of the non-Buddhist Indian schools of philosophy. And this deluded view, are aggregates. That's referring to the body and the mind and the sense objects that you perceive and your perception of them, and feelings and emotions and all of that. So it's a whole bunch of things. Those are called the aggregates, and they perish moment to moment to moment because they're changing, and each of the components changes at a different rate. So it's very dynamic. So it perishes, from this network of that in that moment perishes, and then there's the next one, and it is a network of many components. And this view, the deluded view, is that this soul comes and either, the problem is identifying. So either you identify, me, I'm my body, I'm my mind, and that never changes, So even when you're an old person, we still think of, I have a youthful body, I can do this and do that. So you have a lot of suffering when it doesn't match the projection. Or you think that this soul has come into the body, and as its habitat, and it is controlling it, making use of it, and it's its possession. So we experience that as the little me that's talking in our head. Who's that author? What should I do now? What are people thinking of me? This voice is very deceptive because it makes us think that there is a me in there. So this is this deluded view. And what Dharmakirti said is that that is misknowing. So now ignorance is that misknowing that we know incorrectly. It can be either based on misinformation, so it's a very modern thing. You got the misinformation about, how you exist, and you believed it. So propaganda, misinformation, or it automatically arises. Nobody had to teach you that, there's, I'm talking in my head. That's me. So nobody had to teach us that. Either you could have learned that, or it just automatically arises. So that's misknowing. So that's why I dropped unawareness, because unawareness doesn't work for ignorance. So if you're going to have unawareness, then you have to have, awareness. And if you have misknowing, then and anti-knowing, then you have knowing. So that's why I've changed that. So I've gotten rid of the word awareness. So that's not a very short answer. Sorry.
It's brilliant. Thank you so much.
I have a very naive questions for you. What are the fundamental differences between Zen Buddhism versus Tibetan Buddhism? What are the similarities?
Okay, that's a short question requiring a short answer. I think that, Zen, there are two forms of Zen. Zen is the Japanese variant of it. You have it originally in China. There's a Korean version. There's also a Vietnamese version of them. One of the schools is just you want to basically deal with the nature of the mind in Zen. And it comes from the word Zen is the Chinese word Chan, and Chan is a Chinese, what should we say, way of pronouncing dhyana, which is mental stability. Sometimes translated, well, it's not really concentration, it's a stability of mind. So it's both emotional as well as not wandering stability. So it comes from that, the word. Dealing with the nature of the mind, there are schools within Tibetan Buddhism that focused a great deal on what the nature of the mind is. You might have heard the terms Mahamudra and Dzogchen. They are two different ways of working with the nature of the mind, of mental activity. So Zen is concerned with that. And one way of approaching that is just Zazen, just sitting and focusing on the posture and what's going on with your mind with the posture. So just being like that and getting concentration on that. The other form is with koans, and these are basically it's practiced differently in different countries. So you might have a series of these, which are basically they are, what's the word? Not ironies, they are paradoxes, which are to make you basically stop conceptual thinking. Conceptual thinking is another term that is not so well understood. It means thinking in terms of categories, that we have a category, And it's very complex. I'll probably explain it during the course on Medicine Buddha Place. But basically, it is you have these categories, which are like concepts, and you, if it's a category, you have to have a member of the category, and the member of a category is sort of like you have the category friend, and then you have a generic idea of what a friend is like, and then the problem is that you project that onto an actual person, and they don't fit that your idea of what a friend should be to fit in that category, and then you get quite upset. They're not like this. You're supposed to be like this because so we put things in boxes and then project that. So that's conceptual thought. I've lost what I'm talking about. Zen. Zen. So the idea is to, through these paradoxes, to get you to stop thinking like that. But what gives a better insight into what's going on there is the Korean form of it, which is just one koan. And that koan is, what is it? And that's all you uh, focus on. What is it? And that's a way to get to what is known as vipassana. Vipassana is a exceptionally perceptive state of mind. So you want that non-conceptually, that is able to perceive, it's from the word to see, to really perceptive, to be able to analyze, reality, basically. And so when you are constantly in that state of what is it, that's a way of developing this exceptionally perceptive state of mind, as opposed to developing it through logic. For example, more of a Buddhist way of developing it, or there's a Theravada way of doing it through noticing sensations and stuff like that. There are many, many methods of developing this state of mind. So Zen is characterized by that. And also it is influenced, in my opinion, by the Chinese philosophy that came before, and particularly Mengzi, Mencius, that says the basic nature of the mind is good. There's compassion there. So basically, and you get this sometimes in some Dzogchen texts as well in the Tibetan tradition, that if you just quiet down the mind to the basic nature of the mind, that compassion is there. It will be revealed. Exposed, I should say, not revealed, it's exposed and active. So Zen emphasizes that method for developing compassion. It's there, so it's in common with the other, Tibetan Buddhist and other Buddhist traditions, but it has this type of influence. And then, you have the Zen gardens and Zen, this and that I think is influenced by the Taoists, by Zhuangzi and these sort of people before. And sort of a, Wu Wei, don't do anything active, so it will just happen. that also has an influence in Zen. So it's a very Chinese cultural development. Japanese just makes it much more formal, like the Japanese do with everything.
Similar historical periods, Tibetan Buddhism versus.
No, Tibetan Buddhism developed later. Tibetan Buddhism is the continuation of the full development of Indian Buddhism. So you get an initial wave going into, I mean, Zen goes back, well, I forget how far back, 3rd century or something like that. When it, so Bodhidharma went to China. But an initial wave of Buddhism that came in the old period was in the 8th century. I mean, very, very tiny things in the 7th century. And then it was, there was a decline because basically the monasteries had too much influence, too much tax was being, diverted to the monasteries and stuff like that. So political reasons, basically. And then it was revived again with the author of this text came to Tibet in the 11th century, the beginning of the 11th century. But the full development of the logic tradition in India, all of that goes to Tibet. That didn't go to China. One text was translated. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about uncontrived bodhicitta.
Pardon?
Uncontrived bodhicitta.
Yes.
Can one can that arise in one's mind without a full realization of emptiness?
Without a
Full realization of
full
emptiness.
rising, well, yes. Well, it all depends on what we are speaking about. If we're speaking about, remember I differentiated so-called relative or conventional bodhicitta and ultimate or deepest. The ultimate or deepest is the understanding of voidness. So you can't get that without the understanding of voidness. But
No, I
the
meant
conventional one,
yeah, relative bodhicitta.
relative bodhicitta, I would argue, I would debate no, that you can't get it without the understanding of voidness, because in order to have bodhicitta, you have to be convinced that enlightenment is possible. So for that, you have to be convinced that the so-called stains of the disturbing emotions, disturbing mental factors, because they're not all emotions. Indecisive wavering is not an emotion. But you have to be convinced that these can be removed and know how they can be removed, that they're temporary, which is with the understanding of voidness, that when you imagine, as I was saying during the teachings, that the constant habits of perceiving things as if they are self-established makes the mind project that, make things appear like that. I often use the example, which I think is quite obvious, is a complex program. It just appears on your laptop or appears on your phone. Bah, the whole thing, there it is. Self-established. There's no appreciation that, tens of thousands of hours of work by, a huge team of people created this thing. Self-established. That something in it just automatically there it is. And this is, you know, everything that appears to us. You know, the appearance that everything, that our mind makes of everything, put it that way more accurately, is like that. Our partner comes home from work, or we meet a friend or something like that. It's as if they came from nothing. You know, there's no consideration or appearance that they had a hard day at work, or, you know, they had anything else going on in their lives before that moment. Or you come home and, I mean, it's the same thing, you know, with both partners, as if there's nothing before, self-established. It's like that with everything. You know, not that, you know, there's no, that this person has a family and this person, you know, all of that. So this is the, what did that arise from?
Uncontrived relative bodhicitta.
Relative bodhicitta. So the you need to be convinced, you know, with voidness, that what it's saying is that when we're talking about a soul, the Atman, that's why is, you know, to say, you know, self-grasping is, you know, well, you have to know what grasping means. You have to know what self means. Self is an Atman, soul is the word. And that soul on the deepest level is a self-establishing nature. There is a self nature, but it's not a self-establishing nature. Self nature is what accounts for just the fact that this is an individual item. So it is individual, is the word that's done self. But to imagine that it's a self-establishing thing, that doesn't correspond to reality. So when you talk about voidness, voidness is the absence of an actual referent thing that corresponds to how it appears. There is no such thing. So because there is no such thing, then all of the disturbing mental factors and so on, which are based on thinking that this is self-established. You know, my partner is just there, and so, and why aren't you nice to me? You know, because you should be. This is what, you know, a partner is supposed to be. And, you know, of course, you know, you didn't come from the office where you were stressed and had all this thing. You're just there. So, you know, anger and attachment and these sort of things arise there. So you need the understanding of voidness to be convinced that the mind is, you know, not permanently tainted by that, so that it is possible to achieve enlightenment. And I have some idea of what it entails. Therefore, I can aim for that. Otherwise, you know, what in the world are we, you know, how can you, you know, I'm aiming to achieve enlightenment, but, you know, you're aiming to achieve something else, you know, than what Buddhism is talking about, or you have no idea what you're.
I was wondering, for uncontrived relative bodhicitta, in terms of grounds and paths, if you need an understanding of emptiness to fully develop it, where does that happen? Like on what bhumi?
Okay. The uncontrived bodhicitta is when you achieve that, you have the first pathway mind. It's a pathway. It's not, you know, you're talking about a mind.
Right.
So it's a pathway mind that leads, further on. So it is a building up. It's, it's usually translated accumulation, but it's building up. What are you building up? You are building up the basically vipassana. Vipassana. Either you've already achieved shamatha, a stilled and settled state of mind, or you will achieve it there. But what you are building up is a joined state of shamatha and vipassana, focused on, well, depending on the tenet system, either the 16 aspects of the Four Noble Truths or on voidness, like that. So at the end of that, when you have achieved, so you start that, you develop that pathway mind with the uncontrived bodhicitta, or uncontrived renunciation, if you are as a Shravaka or a Pratyeka Buddha. And then you go on to the next one, which is the path of preparation. That's not quite, what it means. It's now you are applying, you have with joined shamatha and vipassana. So it is, stilled and settled, completely focused, and has this exhilarating, feeling of completely fit. On a physical level, you would have that, when you're really well trained, you feel fit. So now the mind feels very fit. And then you add an extra one that is exceptionally perceptive as well. You have this joined state. It's conceptual on voidness. This is now you apply that. That's the second pathway mind, until you get the non-conceptual understanding of either the Four Noble Truths, 16 aspects, or voidness. That's the seeing pathway of mind. That's when you have, voidness non-conceptually, when you become an Arya. So you don't need it. Well, I just explained that I think you do need it to get to aim for enlightenment. I mean, in a sense, refuge as well. Refuge is again, the connotation of the word refuge is very passive, and it's not passive at all. It's not, oh, save me, save me. But rather it is putting an active direction in your life. So this is, His Holiness always says that for study, forget about Lamrim. Lamrim is a structure for those who have, it's much more advanced structure. The way to begin for beginners is the two truths, from that the four truths, from that the three jewels of refuge. So the two truths on a very basic level, there is reality and your projections of, complete garbage. That I'm the most important one in the world. I should always have my way. People should listen to me. I should be first in line. I mean, we're talking about this type of level that just causes problems. And reality, that everybody is equal. Everybody would like to be paid attention to, and so on. So from those two truths, then you get the four. That, well, the problem is, there's the suffering that's caused from that. The cause of that are these projections, and then all the disturbing emotions that come from that. But it is possible to get rid of that, to see, if I see reality, and then that will be stopped. And the way to do that is to understand what reality is. So you get the four truths. So from that, you get the three jewels, which is, well, that state where, you have the clarity of the mind, the purity of the mind. You've gotten rid of all this junk. That's the Dharma jewel And the Buddhas are those who have achieved it in full. The Sangha are those that have achieved it partially and on the way. So like that, you already have confidence in the goal. Not a very deep understanding of it, but a confidence that, this is what I want to aim for. And then you put that direction in your life. I'm going to go in that direction. This is what refuge means. Going to go in that direction. And by going in that direction, I will avoid problems, overcome suffering. So it works like that. Then you can start with motivation and so on, the Lam Rim. And the guru comes at the very end. It's only placed there because of the context in which it was originally formulated, which is as a preliminary for monks in a monastery who already have a teacher as a review before they take an initiation. It's in that context that the guru comes first for that audience. It's not for beginners. So His Holiness always says it should go to the end of the Lamrim, not the beginning.
I'm still a little bit confused about the uncontrived relative bodhicitta. If it requires emptiness, shouldn't it come
No, it doesn't
later
require the understanding of voidness.
for uncontrived?
Officially, you do not have to have the understanding of voidness. The question that people said, would it be helpful? It would be helpful for being convinced of what the goal is and that I can achieve
I
it.
see.
Now, you could have, that bodhicitta aimed to achieve enlightenment with just a very fuzzy idea, of it. But I think you have to be quite confident that you could achieve it. But if you don't have a fairly clear idea of what you're aiming for, this is why I, puzzle like that. But officially,
Okay.
it's not a requirement to have that.
Thank you.
Just as officially, it's not required that you have shamatha already to have that. Shine. Yeah. Yes.
This can be a stupid question, but what is enlightenment and like how many people did you say enlightened people?
Enlightened beings, well, the cheap answer to that is that only an enlightened being would be able to recognize another enlightened being. So we don't know because we're not enlightened. That's a cheap answer, but it avoids the embarrassing question of there's probably, very, very few. It's difficult. It's difficult. They speak in terms of 1,000 Buddhas in this world age with, millions and millions of years between them. But these are only the ones that will start basically global religions. But just ordinary Buddhas and so on, they always say, well, you never know who's a bodhisattva or who's a Buddha. So, be careful.
So you can reach the enlightenment only after going through all the steps and pathways.
That's right. That's right. What they say on the sutra level is that you have to build up positive force for 3 zillion eons, to overcome the obscurations, these mental blocks, and so on, in order to actually get to that full level. So that is If you put it in the context of beginningless time, then it's, you know, a conceivable number, but it indicates how difficult it is. And when they say in Tantra that it can be achieved in 3 years and 3 phases of the moon, that is a number that is derived from something in the Kala Chakra literature in terms of the number of breaths that during the cycle of a day, the breath goes from primarily from one nostril to the other nostril 12 times, and in a day and night. And when it makes the transition, there are 56 and a quarter breaths. How you get a quarter of a breath, I don't know. But that goes, you know, equally through both and will go into the central channel. And if you add that up to the number of seconds or minutes, I think, to you know, to actually deplete, you know, to get everything in the central channel, which is an aim for getting to a subtle level of mind, subtlest level of mind, that, you know, if you do the math, it will add up to 3 years and 3 phases of the moon. That is symbolic for being able to get all the energy winds into the central channel. So it's, you know, to be taken metaphorically. It's tough.
What would be the realistic like goal or purpose of our current life?
Everything depends on the amount of time and effort that we're willing to put in. Most people who are not monks, and even if they are monks, not necessarily that they, or nuns, who not, you know, they don't necessarily spend all their time really studying and practicing and so on. But, you know, somebody has to work in the kitchen and so on in these monasteries. And if you think in Tibet, you know, way up on a mountain, somebody had to go down and collect water and, you know, cart it up and yak dung and, you know, all this sort of stuff. So a lot of worker drones in the monasteries. But the how realistic a goal we can achieve, as I say, it depends on the amount of effort that we put in and where we are starting from. So Buddhism speaks in terms of beginningless lives. And even if we don't speak of beginningless lives, each of us has a certain strength of, uh, what should we say, habit of this or that disturbing state of mind. Some people have more attachment, some people are less attached, some people have more anger, some people have less anger. So the strength of these, some people have more concentration, some people less, some are more lazy, some are less lazy, some people, you know, are self-disciplined, other people have no discipline. So depending on those factors, it will take longer, you know, how strong the negative habit is, because what you're trying to do is to overwrite it by developing positive habits. So it's like if you speak of the plasticity of the brain, you have very negative neural network that, is with negative habits. And you can develop, new neural pathways, but that requires a tremendous amount of repetition to get it, to be a really stronger than the negative one. And the negative one is very, very well embedded. We tend to, we don't, you can see that in infants even. Some, cry all the time, and others are very calm. You don't come empty like a blank cassette.
Is religion unique to human? In other words, can we teach AI to super intelligence believe faith so that they can also using rational thinking?
You talk about animals? What do you, I didn't catch the.
Oh,
first part.
I'm just saying
Machines, what do you?
Artificial intelligence. Can you teach, because there's a lot of discussion about super intelligence today, where you make it things beyond just artificial intelligence, but go beyond human intelligence. And can we teach machines faith and religious concepts so that there will be not a form being developed beyond?
Well, you can teach a machine a list of ethical guidelines as part of a program. Sort of instructions. You're not going to kill. You're not going to, do this or that. Instruct or enable others to kill, or operate a drone that is going to, do this or that. So you can teach it, you can program it for ethics. You see the difference, there is, machine can have intelligence, certainly. And it can develop new strategies and so on based on algorithms, basically. But what the machine doesn't have is, you can program it to mimic emotions or happiness and unhappiness. But, a machine doesn't experience the results. It doesn't act under the influence of karma. Karma is compulsive behavior, which is not the behavior, but it is the impulse that drives you to act in a certain way, or to speak in a certain way, or to think in a certain way, which is driven by either anti-knowing or misknowing. So, misinformation and disturbing, emotions and so on. So driven by that and past habit, then you act in a certain way, you compulsively are drawn to act in a certain way or speak in a certain way. And you experience as a result of that happiness or unhappiness. So the machine is not going to, it can act under and do things under the influence of, a basic program, a basic algorithm. And that algorithm could be mistaken, so it's ignorant in that sense, giving it, misinformation of what to do and so on. But it's not, an organic type of a process, and the machine is not going to experience the results, of happiness or unhappiness. It can, come up on the screen, oh gosh, I made a mistake. I'm sorry that I gave you the wrong answer. But it doesn't feel unhappy about that. It doesn't have,
Yeah.
well, lack of feeling happy or unhappy.
Mm.
And it's not going to, it could mimic anger.
Mhm.
It could mimic, oh, please don't go away, attachment, but it's not really experiencing that
Can you
as a
offer,
result of, previous habits and, what it's done.
can I ask you another personal question? Do you think religion is a byproduct of human intelligence, or do you think religion exists prior to human existence as part of a primordial state of universe, so that it's a fundamental principle, the first principle, what it means govern how universe works, and before we even get
Well,
it.
that is a very loaded question. First of all, what is a religion? How you define that? And people who are just into so-called Abrahamic religions, so Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, one defining characteristic of a religion is a belief in a creator God. Well, many Indian religions don't believe in that, in a creator. Buddhism, Jainism, Samkhya philosophy. And so, what is a religion? A set of beliefs? Well, you have, science is a set of beliefs, set of principles, and so on. So you could have ethics without a religion, and so on. So religion, you can have it, does a religion mean a hierarchy? Does it mean rituals? What defines a religion? This is a very difficult word to define. So, when you're saying, can a machine be taught religion? Well, I don't know. I mean, what do you want to teach it to that would constitute teaching it a religion? Can you teach it to do rituals? Sure, it could mimic, rituals and, do that. Can you program ethics into it? Ethical, these are guidelines of, what it should do and not do, that you can program. What else? I don't know. What else would constitute? Can you believe in a creator God? You can tell it to, include that in any answer that you would give, to a question. So I don't know that it would, you could actually teach it a religion. So the second part of your question is it inherent in the universe? So this is, is there something, the thing that I always do, not so much in terms of religion, but justice, is justice inherent in the universe? No. Why should the universe be just? There's no reason why it should be just. Is it just that a spider eats a fly? Is it just that, a lion eats a gazelle? It's not justice.
To create order out of chaos, in a sense, is anti-entropy. So by default, everything will go into dust and become
Right.
chaos. The fact how life's been created is almost miracles. It's not random.
Well,
So it
created, you're
almost,
using a loaded term. Created means a creator. It could just happen. It could, I mean, scientists would certainly, an emergent quality, of certain bunch of chemicals and energy. And then you have life, depending on how you define life, so there's defining characteristics of life. I don't know. Is there order in the universe? What do you mean by order? I mean, now we bring in, as you said, entropy. Is that the order of the universe? You know, are there physical laws that are inherent, that is self, establishing within the fabric of the universe? Well, there are laws of physics. Well, laws of physics are a mental construct, isn't it? It is a concept that scientists have come up with to try to make sense of what they experience. You come up with a mathematical formula. I mean, that's a complete mental construct, isn't it? To make sense. And they revise these, if they say, well, this was not so accurate, and then you get something far more complicated. There were certain variables that we didn't take into consideration. So you got a much more complex formula. So is that inherent? I mean, that's, is that part of the universe? It's just our way of trying to understand, make sense of it. So we might be able to make sense of this universe, but then, when you speak in terms of multiverse and so on, there could be theoretically different physical laws. Well, I don't know how much variation you could have, It depends. If you speak in terms of life, something going in and something coming out, the two halves have to be joined, so that it's not just two halves and something goes in and something, comes out. I mean, there's certain things that would, but that's not necessarily, that's our concept of life. So I don't know that things are, does there have to be order in a universe? Well, I don't know. What do we mean by order? Chaos. There's a very different approach in India, for example, from the Western approach. There's this wonderful book, the name of which I don't recall, but draws this difference that in Western philosophy, Western thing, you want to control chaos. So, and the master and sort of the God image, so I'm going to control chaos. And in the Indian system, Indian way of thinking, you embrace chaos. Chaos is just part of everything. And you live with that and work within that. And it works within chaos, as demonstrated by Indian traffic, where there's no respect of which side of the road to ride on, and the animals and, everything is there, complete chaos. And yet it works. Nobody's trying to control it. In the West, you try to control. So very different idea of, chaos. So I don't know. But I don't think that, I argue against, the universe being just. Justice is a construct.
Like justice is more human perceived way. I mean, because a lot of times I have discussion with my religious friends, right? Where I say, okay, well, does God exist? God needs to be just. And then, the injustice in the world, how would that be, but you're
There could be an
trying to first
unjust
assumption.
God.
It could be the assumption, yeah.
There can be an unjust God. God took my baby, that was unjust.
Because then about what teaching about compassion, right? I mean, that's a positive value being taught, right? So the whole weekend training. So how is that, going back to fundamental believer in inner values and ethics, what is right versus wrong? I almost feel like that's almost.
Well, right and wrong. What do you mean by that? Then you have to define right and wrong. You know, it could be in accord with a an ethical system, right and wrong according to Sharia, Islamic law. It can be quite different from right and wrong compared to a Western set of laws. You know, Sharia, the women have to wear, you know, veil and so on. Set of laws in France, absolutely forbidden. You know, you can't wear that in public.
Maybe those are more cultural complexity, but more like you know, just an example, like to kill another fellow human being without a reason is unethical. And
Yes, but your reason could be, you know, I consider them an inferior race, and therefore, you know, they should be killed. So, you know, you could have and this is just because I am a more powerful race. So, again, you know, what is justice is, you know, very culturally specific. You know, it's not an inherent fixed quality, I don't think. That different cultures, different people will define it differently. And the universe is not compassionate. As the example of, you know, the animals, the fish, they eat each other live, just gobble them down, you know, bite them in half. That's not very compassionate. Is it just? No. There's no justice in that. Yeah.
Just one question. Then how do you bear the sense of loneliness? I don't know if
How
it's
do you what with the
Lon-
sense of loneliness?
loneliness. How do you bear that? Like,
Bear it.
because in my perspective, I feel like the sense of loneliness always come with the like intrinsically it has to we all have to be lonely. That's what I feel. Uh, but I don't know if it's true for everyone. I don't know if it's my mind block in my own, I don't know, because of my karma. Um, but I wonder how you can deal with it.
Well, I think that loneliness is based on not understanding the connection that we have with everyone. So
You
whether it is an active connection, even if you have an active, you know, connection, you could be in a crowd and be lonely.
Right. What I mean by that is more of a deep level of loneliness. Like, even though you are with people, even though you're in Sangha, and even though you can talk to your own problem with therapist or monk or whoever it is, you have to go through the path like you by yourself. Like, it's not something that someone else can teach you. Like, guru cannot teach you. You have to
Right.
find
You're
the
born
own
alone,
truth.
you die alone is the usual statement.
Right.
Well, that doesn't mean alone doesn't mean lonely. I mean, we have to experience, you know, if I eat food, it doesn't fill your stomach, it fills my stomach. So we are individual, and in that sense, we are alone in the sense that we experience things individually. But when you speak about lonely, I think it's very important to consider, what do you want? How would you define not lonely? And is that something which is realistic? What does it mean to be not lonely? That I have somebody that I share my life with. Well, do I want them glued to me 24 hours a day? They come with me to the toilet. I mean,
It's very frustrating because I already know that it's not going to be resolved until I realize like with my heart that my being is actually connected to the nature. Like
nature and connected to
Or-
other people.
yeah, other people or other beings. But I know it in my brain, but I didn't experience with my heart, so I don't know it yet. And I don't know if it's possible for me to realize that. But I heard that some stories, like there are some people that, I don't know, like it's not enlightening, but they realized it somehow. And I feel like it's gonna give me some fulfillment. But until that, I feel like that's impossible. It's not about physically being with other people.
Right. So if we look at it, you see, this I think is one fallacy, is I have to feel it. And somehow that's going to happen in a way that we can't understand. So the Buddhist method is basically to go over it again and again intellectually. So conceptually. So how are we connected to others? Everything that I make use of in my life is based on the work of others. Somebody planted this food, somebody grew it, somebody built the roads that it was transported on, somebody built the trucks, somebody drove it, somebody built a store, somebody worked in the store, everything, a cow gave, this milk, and so on. So everything that we did, that we experience and make use of, is due to the efforts of others. And going back in history as well, everything is available now based on what was in the past. So you go over that again and again and again in meditation. Just basically, reading it and thinking of it, even if you don't really think of it. But if you read it, over and again, like this text that we studied today, as part of my daily practice, I speed read through it every day. And there are a number of texts that I do that with. And if you've done it for years, then you can speed read pretty quickly through it. And going over it so frequently like that, it just becomes part of how you deal with life, just automatically. Do you feel it? I don't even know what that means to say, I feel it. Does it affect your behavior? That's what's significant. And does it affect it in an uncontrived way? Our word uncontrived. You don't have to think of it. It just automatically, that's the way that you behave. That's the way that you respond to any situation. That's how you build it up. And I think that you can do the same thing with, realizing that I am connected with everybody, not lonely. Lonely is based on a misconception, really, that I'm not connected. Therefore, I'm, alone. It's almost like, I'm abandoned by others. There could be that element. I'm not saying that you experience that, but there could be, it could go in that direction.
Yeah, I thought maybe because my because of my stereotype from Korean Buddhism, like Buddhism to me has been something that you only can perceive, not you can like think through, like conceptually. So that's
That it's
maybe
not.
why I felt like I need to feel something with something abrupt event rather than, because I already know that I'm connected and I like working with people. Like I know that in my brain, but it's just my thinking. It's not my knowing. That's what I felt.
Right, and this is why I was describing that if you repeat it often enough, it becomes digested, it becomes non-conceptual.
Right.
That's just, I mean, I found that true from my own experience. But it takes years.
You mentioned Atman. Should we understand that in the sense that Buddhism rejects the existence of such a thing?
Of what?
Atman?
Atman?
Yeah.
It rejects an Atman having the characteristics of certain characteristics. There is a self, and the word Atman is used for that. Other words are used for that as well. There is a self. It is tied, I mean, jargon uses the word imputed, which gives completely, not only is it a meaningless word, but it gives the wrong impression. It's tied, so there's a self that is tied to a body and mind. It can't exist separate from it, and it can't be known separately from a body and mind. And it changes from moment to moment. There's a continuum, it's individual. It can know things. So it has a quality of knowing. As the experience changes, the content changes, it changes as the body changes because it's tied to it. Like that. So there is a self like that, but not a self that is, that can exist not tied to a body and mind, that doesn't change, as the body grows and so on, that doesn't identify with the body or mind, doesn't feel that it is living inside it and controlling it. But there's a self that's tied to it. So, and then we conventionally say, I experience this, I know this, I eat this, but that gives the wrong impression, though. That this is separate. It's just, this will tie into the whole thing of rebirth. What is the person? But Buddhism doesn't deny the conventional existence of a self. I'm not you, you're not me, I'm an individual, and a self which is a referential point for individual experiencing of things. There's that. And the word Atman is one of the words that is also used for that.
Is the
But
Buddhist...
it's not a soul.
Understood.
Mm.
Is the Buddhist view that humans are uniquely positioned to...
That what is uniquely?
The Buddhist view?
Yeah.
That is there anything special about humans? in the sense that you mentioned subtle and gross bodies, like can conceivably many different entities achieve enlightenment?
No. The human, I mean, they speak in terms of the precious human rebirth, that we have the intelligence to be able to distinguish between what's helpful and what's harmful. So we're not operating completely on instinct like many animals do. We are able to understand what is of destructive and what's constructive, what is self-destructive, and refrain from that. We have that ability. So it's called the precious human rebirth. On that basis, we can practice. We are in a society that there can be, those who support working on ourselves. We can work to improve ourselves. We can work to overcome our shortcomings. An animal can't do that. I mean, you can train an animal to do things, but the human is, rebirth is unique. It doesn't have too much suffering. I mean, obviously, you can be in a war situation or a famine situation, which you have too much suffering, or you could be tortured. But in general, it's not too pleasant, as described by, what's called God realms. It's not too unpleasant, like what's described as the hell realms. So it's the Goldilocks, position of neither too much nor too little that allows us to develop a motivation, to improve things. So from the Buddhist point of view, the human life is being reborn, with this species of body and mind is, the mind has the ability, mental activity. A mind is going to have to work on hardware. And the hardware of a human brain is much more able to, work for its own welfare than the hardware of the brain of a housefly. Same mental activity, same, what's called mind, but the hardware that it's running on makes it limited. And the sensor material through which it perceives things is different. What makes our perception of the world more correct than what is the appearance of the world through the multi-prism eyes of a fly? How can we say that ours is more real? That's what, that's reality. It's very interesting to think, about that. Or colorblind, or some species can, have more colors, or the speed of how many frames per second the brain can process through these eyes. Fly, far, far more. So to a fly, it looks like we are moving in slow motion. That's why it's so difficult to catch a fly. Which one is real? That's an issue that is discussed in Buddhist philosophy. Can't say that one is more real than the other, can you? What the world looks like to an elephant or what it looks like to an ant. Different. Yeah.
Wow, Dr. Berzin, thank you so much. It's been a privilege for you to give us so much more of your time.
Well, it's fun. I'm here.
Um,
I'm here. So very happy to do this. And we have another session tomorrow morning. So then I'd like to, well, I'll repeat it in the morning, but Serkong Rinpoche and I, with our video director, did a chat. We started a series of chats. I mean, only the first one is up. We recorded 7 of them already, of 40-minute chats, you know, among us to discuss various issues. So the first one was our relationship in 2 lifetimes. And the next one will be the whole issue of overthinking. And then we have one on, you know, procrastination, and I forget what the other ones were like. But I mean, you know, just a chat, a discussion back and forth. It was a lot of fun to do, and I think people will like it. So it's on our YouTube channel, the Study Buddhism YouTube channel. So I won't go into too much detail, but what I would like to explain is rebirth. You know, what is the connection between the old one and the new one? You know, 1.0 and 2.0 versions. I think that that's, you know, important to understand, and especially, you know, if you guys are going to be, I mean, you're young enough to be involved with the Lama Zopa incarnation as he grows up. How to understand that. The most, one of the most important things, guidelines is don't spoil the kid. That can have, you know, with all the good intentions, you could really make a lot of problems for the kid as they grow up. By spoiling them and making them have this, I forget the technical term in psychology, don't have it on the tip of my fingers, but a cultural dissonance that, you know, it's so nice with all the toys. I don't want to, you know, get trained as a Tibetan Lama. Let's just go, you know, with our Western toys. So that makes a big conflict, cultural conflict, and you really want to avoid that. No.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everybody. We have a meditation tomorrow at 7:15 to 8 o'clock, both available on Zoom and in person with Venerable Angie. And then we look forward to continuing this conversation with Dr. Berzin at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Really looking forward to it. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a wonderful evening, Dr. Berzin. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll see you in the morning. Thank you so much.